PhD, homelessness and housing policy, the right way. Hello and welcome to the Wright Report Week in Review. On the Week in Review here at the Wright Report, we bring you weekly headline reports of homeless news and housing policy in the Denver metro area.
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around.
The Week in Review consists of reading local headlines in my fancy sponsor announcer's voice, followed by a quick summary of its contents and perhaps a comment from your host. That's me, Benjamin Wright. That's WRIGHT. In addition to the Week in Review, we also intend to produce some in-depth reports of various news items as time and technology, and well, I guess call it talent, would allow. To find other episodes of the Wright Report, visit us on YouTube at THEWRIGHTREPOT. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Can you keep a secret?
What do you think?
We at the Wright Report want you to be informed by reviewing the news coverage of homelessness and housing policy, paying attention to how the coverage is framed, who framed it, hence the commentary, and with a little luck, have some fun along the way. So let's get it right with the Wright Report. That's WRIGHT. Douglas County joins for Regional Navigation Campus. Commentary. Wait for it. We're going to rant. I hope you have a lot of fun. Douglas County is partnering with neighboring Aurora and other municipalities and agencies to provide resources and shelter for people experiencing homelessness. During a regular business meeting on April 23rd, the Board of Douglas County Commissioners entered into an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Aurora to help fund the Aurora Regional Navigation Campus to support those experiencing homelessness or housing instability. The county agreed to contribute $1.125 million of its American Rescue Plan ARPA funding. Quote, for the percentage of unhoused individuals who are not service resistant or justice involved. Commentary. Rant time. Oh, great. They're already excluding people despite their need. Means testing is commonly used when municipalities pretend to help their poor. You don't get to eat because you're hungry and we have food. You get to eat because when we've decided we like you because you look like us or talk like us or follow a bunch of unnecessary rules in order to earn our approval, and then we might let you have something to eat. Same goes for housing. Well, let's get started with the term service resistant. Service resistant is an uttering that's used by conservative-dominated municipalities to shame people who are in poverty. What they never mention is what kinds of services that they have offered. How about a spot in a smelly, overcrowded shelter? Dude, I need a place with a door that I can lock and be safe so I can sleep with both eyes closed. Or things like, would you like a case manager? No thanks, I already have one. I'm on 3 housing lists. These communities will label these folks as service resistant, never looking to meet actual needs, but assuming that their offered intervention, no matter how inappropriate, must be agreed to. Things like this get people labeled service resistant. Now let's address the term justice involved. Apparently that's their way of punishing criminals who are not deserving of help no matter the need. Someone who's on probation for trespassing because of where they slept still needs to eat and have a safe place to sleep. Now, what they don't describe is the kinds of involvement with the justice system. Jury duty involves you with the justice system. unpaid traffic tickets. They purposely have the term hanging in the article for the general public to assume the worst, like they robbed a bank or something. The intent is to install fear into the general public, which allows communities like this to justify their underfunding of meeting the needs of the poor in their area, and to justify removing people from sight through sweeps or move-along orders rather than actually housing them. They will go long ways to prevent people from accessing the housing that they didn't work towards putting together in the first place. Ooh, ranting. Wasn't that exciting? Well, let's get back to the article. We are pleased to partner with Aurora and other in the region to ensure case management and wraparound services. Commentary. Except for the kinds of exceptions that we've already mentioned and a bunch of exceptions that we haven't taken the time to tell you about. The new Aurora Regional Navigation Campus, 15550 East 40th Avenue in Aurora, will provide a variety of services for people experiencing homelessness, such as transitional housing. More commentary. What's not mentioned here is the need versus what they plan on supplying, something known as the gap between those who have a need and the small portion of housing that's actually available. Just how many of these transitional units are they providing? 4, 40, 400? How many people have the need? 100, 500, 5,000? A minuscule amount of housing will not make a noticeable dent in their homeless population. So what's the gap? They never tell you, leaving you to assume that they are providing enough, and those who remain have something wrong with them and are not deserving. Employment services. Commentary. More choice words. Employment services. This is a job search, not a job with a living wage. Job placement in temporary jobs that don't lead to a person's ability to be self-sustainable and support housing. You'll never actually hear the actual jobs, pay rates, etc. For reference, the average mean income in Denver is $76,000 a year. 80% AMI is a job that pays about $60,000 a year. 60% AMI, or quote-unquote workforce wages, pays $45.6 thousand a year. Actual steady permanent jobs at these rates would allow for folks just to take care of themselves and not need all this other stuff. That's assuming they don't have a disability. People with disabilities are high among the homeless community. And in those cases, their disability probably factored largely in what led them to homelessness in the first place. Workforce development. Commentary. What do they mean, workforce development? Is that training? Is that certification for certain kinds of low-paying jobs? Is that higher education for qualifications for better-paying jobs? Daytime shelter. Commentary. How many is just a place to sit and rest, which has a certain amount of value? Or is there going to be access to all these other quote-unquote services that they claim to have? Or you'll need to show up every day and wait around all day in hopes of having your name called when they finally get to you. It's not unusual for folks to sign up first thing in the week, only to find out several days later that they're not going to be able to meet your need with the limited services that they have available, most of which probably don't apply to your particular case. Emergency shelter. Commentary. Emergency shelters for emergencies. It's not supposed to substitute for housing or for being a way to describe that you've housed someone. Emergency shelters is for the night and maybe the next couple days, like after your house burnt down. They're not supposed to be a place where you're at for months on end because there are no other options. Yet this is typically as far as communities will go, because once they get people into these big box emergency shelters, their visible homeless are out of sight, and they think that they've done their job. All they've done at this point is hide the problem. Medical clinics. Okay. Doctors are good. Addiction counting. Okay for some, but it's a minority. You might be surprised to know just how many of these job permanent placement programs are going to require people to go through addiction counseling, whether they have a need or a desire to interact with it or not. Part of the means testing to prevent access to jobs by forcing among folks services that either they don't want or they don't need. That being said, there are many who are going to want and need this service, but forcing it upon those who don't want it or have the need is frankly shaming and abusive. Mental health services. Same as above with addiction counseling, but noting that doctors are a good thing. Medical respite beds. Again, what was not mentioned here is how many medical respite beds that they're planning on providing and what the expected need is. What we are missing is that gap number again. Housing navigation. Commentary. Honestly, what this means is your ability to do the job of what your case manager is supposed to do to help you access housing. In the end, all of this gets solved with having housing available to navigate to. I've been in meetings where two different case managers sharing stories about struggles of finding housing for their clients, and then realizing at that meeting that they were competing against each other for the exact same unit. That's how competitive it is for folks to get into available housing. So if you don't have the housing available and then place the responsibility for navigating the complicated process on the victim of the housing crisis, it's like telling a sick person who went to the doctor that it's their responsibility to manufacture the medicines and read the charts and interpret them in order to self-diagnose whatever their problem is, and in the end, doing the doctor's job. Case management. No mention of how many case managers will be available, what their caseload will be, and what kinds of cases they're going to manage. Are they going to be managing housing cases, addiction cases, job placement cases, workforce development cases? If you're going to pile all this stuff on a person who just graduated from college and not pay them a living wage either, which is typically what happens out in the industry, and then wonder why they get burnout in less than 3 years. What's the community's accountability to make sure that there's enough case managers to meet the need? There's that gap number. The number one resource for case management that needs to be available is housing for people to transition into. If you have 10 people competing to get into the same unit, that's not housing people. And meals. Well, food is good, but there's a difference between a sack lunch with your basic bologna sandwich, undersized orange, and a gummy bear snack, or a school lunch, which is underportioned along with canned vegetables and a meat patty and a carton of milk, or actual food, like a well-cooked casserole with a side dish and real vegetables to be in the salad and something. The campus will accommodate animals and pets. Cool. As a partner, Douglas County will have access to the campus for qualifying individuals. Commentary. By using Aurora's facility, they don't have to build their own and thus take accountability for their local need. It's like borrowing somebody else's lawnmower to mow your lawn every week. Let's continue. The agreement also includes 5 beds assigned for Douglas County use. Eligible individuals will be referred by the Homeless Engagement Assistant Resource Assistance Team, HART. Commentary. 5 beds? Just how many does Douglas County need? It's that gap number again. Likely they'll still need to build another facility in order to have enough to meet their need. Let's continue. Also partnering with the Navigation Center are Adams County, Arapahoe County, Aurora Housing and Urban Development, and the Colorado Department of Local Affairs. The campus is expected to open as early as 2025. The Douglas County Homeless Initiative began in 2022 with the goal of addressing homelessness in Douglas County with compassion and partnering with others. Commentary. So what does this actually mean? If they don't meet their goal, does that mean that they're not going to address homelessness? If they don't meet their goal, does that mean they are going to address homelessness, but without compassion? Is the goal to do these things by partnering with others? Or is this merely an excuse not to take responsibility themselves? Yeah, I'm being mean, but a lot of this stuff that gets big PR and a little bit of ink tends to be full of faux, incomplete resources, leaving those in need underserved. In the end, not really making a difference in their community. However, they would like people to read those articles to think that they're making a difference. Now, that doesn't mean that the life here and there, that doesn't, now that doesn't mean that a life here and there isn't going to be touched. Occasionally, if you have 100 people starting and you feed 10 of those, 10 people sure appreciate about the food that they got, but the other 90 who starved, because you didn't build the resources in order to meet their needs, suggests that maybe you shouldn't pat yourself on the back for underplanning, under-resourcing to meet the needs of the community. If you're going to meet the needs of the community, make a plan to meet those needs and a plan to address those needs, not leaving folks' needs unmet. That is the job of the government, to see that these kinds of needs are met in their communities, including municipalities, nonprofits, law enforcement agency, faith leaders, mental health experts, school district, and individual residents. Commentary. Guess who's not on the list? That's right, the homeless community. Part of the reason that there are so many services that apply to so few people is because you haven't talked to the homeless community to find out which are the things that they actually need versus the ones that are most convenient for you to provide. The Homeless Initiative has since launched the HEART Co-Response Team. Commentary. Let's talk about quote-unquote co-response teams, named with cool acronyms like HEART, STAR, Succeed, Joy, whatever. I'll bet this co-response team includes police who shouldn't even be responding there in the first place. I'll bet this co-response team is underfunded. We don't underfund other first responders like firemen. I bet co-responders have to stand behind police officers who will buffalo both people in encampments and the co-responders about what they can and can't do. Firemen, EMTs, and other first responders are free to go do their thing without having to ask permission from a police officer because they're trained to manage it. And it should be the same for the co-responders approaching folks who are in encampments. Douglas County HEART Giving Campaign and provided resources to businesses. Learn more about Douglas County Homelessness Initiative. Commentary. Did I read that right? That Douglas County HEART Giving Campaign is designed to provide resources to businesses, and that they're calling this part of the Douglas County Homelessness Initiative? Okay, rant done. More than a third of Colorado's largest towns and cities lost population last year, but a handful boomed. Census counts, however, may not be capturing the influx of immigrants into Metro Denver. Commentary. The amount of people that live in a place is directly related to the cost of housing. Go figure. But we're going to take a quick look at this to get an idea of areas where the housing need can be addressed so we know how much new housing needs to be built. Before the pandemic, Colorado recorded some of the strongest population growth in the country, with many newcomers settling in Metro Denver and up and down the Front Range. Commentary. Making the competition for housing high and making the cost of housing high. Let us continue. But the latest census numbers released Thursday showed 13 of the state's largest towns and cities, defined as those with a population of 20,000 or more, have fewer people than they did July 1st, 2020. And in the year through July 1st, 2023, 11 out of the state's larger municipalities, more than a third, lost population. Population gains consist of natural increases or bursts, which are falling in Colorado minus deaths, which are rising due to aging population. Commentary. Plus, we came through a pandemic. It didn't hit Colorado as hard as it had other parts of the country, but it was there. Let's continue. Plus, net migration, the flow of people moving in and out of the state. Quote, even though our in levels have stayed pretty high, what we have started to see is an increase in our outs, especially among older adults. Older adults, said Elizabeth Gardner, Colorado State demographer. Commentary. What are some of the factors that exist in older people? Well, one is they don't have an increasing income. And so that if the rent goes up, they're not able to afford more. And so they move to some place where they can afford the rent. Not that the high cost of housing would be mentioned in this. Viewing the numbers through the lens of older people leaving the state and younger people moving in places where they can start families helps explain much of what is happening. Will Colorado's new land use laws kickstart housing? Experts laud changes, but now the real work begins. Success of zoning reforms and other changes will depend on oversight and implementation. Commentary. Allow us to repeat the subtitle. The success of zoning reforms and other changes will depend on oversight and implementation. Without oversight, without implementation, they're just words on a page and don't mean they're going to change anything for anybody. One good example of what's going on with the rental registry. Considering they do everything not to enforce current oversight, it makes no sense to assume that these laws will work as intended. The suite of landmark zoning and land use reform laws passed by Colorado lawmakers this year should help alleviate the housing crisis, national experts say, while capitulating that the Centennial State into the ranks of other housing pioneers. But those experts cautioned that reforms seeded this winter and spring will take years to bear fruit. New laws signed in recent weeks will likely need frequent tending to ensure that they spur the building of new apartments and other residential development, in line with the vision of lawmakers and Governor Jared Polis. Quote, it's important to keep reminding people that this is going to roll out over several years, end quote, said Jenny Schutz, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, whose research focuses on housing and land use. Quote, take a deep breath, see how this works, she added. It's really significant political accomplishment. Commentary. Wait. What did this researcher at the Brookings Institute say? Take a deep breath. Let's see how this works. And then claiming it was significant political accomplishment? It sounds like a direct admission that nothing's been accomplished, but someone wants to take credit for it. Maybe it might work, maybe not. But be sure to give me credit anyway. For now, they've accomplished nothing. Political leaders respond by sounding sympathetic to their constituents, but vote with institutions that fund their political campaigns. Wash, rinse, repeat. Political leaders respond by sounding sympathetic to their constituents, but vote with institutions that fund their political campaigns. Wash, rinse, repeat. Political leaders respond by sounding sympathetic to their constituents, but vote with the institutions that fund their political campaigns. Wash, rinse, repeat. For your information, the Brookings Institution is a nonprofit organization based in Washington, D.C. Quote, our mission is to conduct in-depth, nonpartisan research to improve policy and governance at local, national, and global levels. At the core of our mission is the quality, independence, impact of our research. We are dedicated to finding bold, pragmatic solutions for social challenges through open-minded industry, diverse perspectives, and holding ourselves to the highest standards of scholastic rigor. Because of this, Brookings has been the forefront of public policy for more than a century. Commentary. This is a policy wonk institution. It's not necessarily biased, but like with most studies, most of these research organizations tend to find what the funders of their particular study want to discover. So if an organization asks them to find health problems with eating too much sugar, the study they perform will in fact show that there are health problems with eating too much sugar. But if a different organization asks them to study that talks about the benefits of sugar, then they will do a study that will show the benefits of sugar. Now for the last bit of the article. 4 national housing experts who spoke to the Denver Post said the legislation amounted to a comprehensive first package of reforms that parallel what a handful of other states have pursued, some for years, some only recently, in a bid to address their own housing crises. Well, that'll do it for this week. Thank you for watching the Wright Report, Week in Review, week of March 17th, 2024, with your host, Benjamin Wright. That's WRIGHT, Homeless News and Housing Policy the Right Way. Links referred to in the articles will be in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get notifications of in-depth coming analysis of reports when they become available. Till then, we'll see you next week here at the Wright Report, Homeless News and Housing Policy the Right Way.